totally programmed minds. Before I could show them that they're programmed, they would click off of the video. And that put me into a huge state of anxiety. And so there was a lot of good information in that, but it was also, number one, the recording quality wasn't very good, but in the beginning I was just bitching and bitching and bitching because I was angry, and I was angry at the future. I was angry at knowing that a lot of people wouldn't listen. I was worried about whether I was going to fail or succeed. Do you understand? And that inhibited my expression in the moment. As I was taken through my path, many lessons were quickly shown to me. What is a lesson other than putting two and two together in your own life, in your own path, and your spirit will do that for you? Just be mindful of the truth you feel inside. I've grown a lot since I first came on YouTube a year ago. What I would say now is not what I would say before. Not that what I said before isn't valid. It was valid for progression. But I calmed down because I realized that was it. I remembered the exam, I remembered the lunch tickets, I remembered how the mind locks up anxiety. I started reading all the books because I did do my research. I had read hundreds and hundreds of pages of Fritz Springmeier, read 4 of David Icke's books, not to regurgitate them, but to see what was being said to people. I realized when I read The Biggest Secret that that was a very traumatic book. Fritz Springmeier stuff is very traumatic, and I knew people better than the people giving out this information. I'm not saying that David Icke's intentions are bad. I think he does a great job speaking. He gives from himself. But there are things that I know. I know people. I am a very sympathetic person to both sexes. I know people, and I know the mind from my own experience, not from a book. And I thought, wait a minute. These people need to be enabled first. Because if they're not enabled, perhaps they didn't put 2 and 2 together from experiences in their life yet. If they didn't do that, and they're going on a superficial meaning basis, they're fucked. I knew that right away. Holy shit, they're going to be. Wait a minute. And then I started understanding anarchy. It was just a huge red flag. So I stopped, recalibrated, and went back to the beginning. If people are not enabled, then all of this information will paralyze them. And I told you that in The Healing Begins Now. How am I going to enable you? Well, I'm following the path. Again, I'm not really worried about whether I fail or succeed. I don't have a particular objective in mind. I don't have a particular goal or an outcome. Because that's the end justifying my means. And I won't allow that to happen. I know what people need. They need to learn to extract meaning from their own life. And it can happen, but here's the deal. The brain, if it's going to rewire itself to accommodate that type of thinking, reason and logic and actually pattern recognition, the brain will have to rewire to accommodate that if you're going to do it in conscious awareness. That takes some time. So I have to catalyze that process and be patient. That's why it's almost a year later now. I have a lot of knowledge to share, but if I just went bleh with everything I know, if I truly cared about you, then by doing that, I would be hurting you, which would be a direct contradiction. You've got to take the whole picture into account. It may suck to have it take this long, and that may be excruciating to wait for people to catch up. But if you truly care about them, that's what you're going to do. So I know what I'm doing, kind of. I will give opinions that I've extracted from my own life, yes, but I will always, if you notice, show you how I reach that. And the way that I show you keeps you from trying to copy it. At least I do that the best I can. I think I've done a decent job as one person trying to address many people. And I'm not strategizing too much, because if I'm strategizing with what I say, then I inhibit the flow of my speech, and then it's not as authentic. So I speak. I speak as I am. I teach how I teach. I'm both a student and a teacher. And what I'm trying to teach you is how to learn from you. How to handle pressure based upon lessons you've already gotten in your life, whether you remember or not. I want you to remember. I want you to go back and find it. It may take some time. You've got to be patient. You can't play guitar right off the bat. The results will take care of themselves. If you express yourself with the proper means, you will have the correct illusion of an end. Do you understand that? If you focus on the end, your means will get screwed up. If you focus on the means, meaning have faith, that's where trust comes into play. Faith in your instinct, in the expression of love. If you believe that love is the superior consciousness, then you have to trust it. You have to extend faith to your spirit, to the truth. Love is interchangeable with truth. People misunderstand that. They've been misled. It's not their fault. But they have a belief. They've maybe heard me say something about unconditional love. But the problem is that people have a belief that unconditional love means unconditional fluff. Try substituting the word love with the word truth, and then say it. Unconditional truth. Love doesn't go around and act fluffy-duffy. Love does what's appropriate in a given moment. Sometimes you may seem to be rude to somebody. Why that was needed, you may not know. But it knows. Trust love in the moment. So I had to make a decision. I cannot control my experience. This I understand. I cannot control what happens in my reality. My mind may affect what happens, but I really have no control over it. So what do I have control over? What I give to it, how I perceive it. When they say he who overcometh, what is it that you think you're overcoming? What is the ego other than submitting to the collective input you've had from your reality since day one? That's the ego. This idea of dismantling the ego completely is wrong. I use my ego all the time. Personality's still there. I'm not a moron. I know how to interact. You're not going to lose your mind unless you're part of some cult that tries to brainwash you. When I say the ego is the problem, what I mean by that is believing that you are your ego. For to believe that you are your ego means that you have allowed society to tell you what you are in a prison system. And that's wrong. Your objective is for you to tell society yourself what you are, regardless of its input. That is what honesty is. Where you express yourself how you truly feel, what you know, regardless of your reality. You are not where you are. You are not what you experience. You are the experiencer. If you let your experience change you and tell you what you are, then you become the experience, and that's how you get caught in the web. If you're constantly running from pain and chasing pleasure, and think that that is somehow your identity, you're in the web. This is very important. Very important. You can't change what happens to you. In the sense that your ego does create your life here through the law of karma and the law of attraction, which is an imposition on you, by the way. It's an imposition. It's wrong. Stop watching The Secret. It's wrong. Anything you want to manifest out of the ego is just an accident waiting to happen. It's only a matter of time before you impose upon another's will, and they know that. When you manifest out of love, love takes priority. it will manifest correctly whether you understand it or not. So your mind creates your reality. So if you're just mind ignoring input from spirit, you can potentially create very bad things. If you submit to the truth, which is what it comes down to, people, it's not falling on your knees and worshiping as some enslaved servant. Serving God? What? You don't serve God. You wouldn't be without God. Serve God? What? You wouldn't be without it. Women, do you have a child? Do you go through the whole process and give birth so you have your child worship you? Is that your motive? Do you make your child contract to worship you and bow down 5 times a day to you? You know, here's a good example of what I want to invoke in you with your understanding of why patience is a virtue. Now, I'd taken just a 10-minute break to go do something. I went driving and I came back. Now, in that 10-minute period, to tell you what went through my mind in 5 of those 10 minutes would take me about 3 hours of linear language, of linear speech. This is crucial, and this is why patience is needed. What happens? Well, if all of that comes into your mind, you get overwhelmed, right? Because you see things broader. And compared to how you can speak it, it's overwhelming. It's kind of like if I had an Adobe ebook that you read with an Acrobat Reader, and say it's a 20,000 page book. Now I have a memory stick and I can just plug that into your hard drive, copy and paste it onto your hard drive. Once that's done, you have the information. It took a few seconds to transfer it, and now you have 20,000 pages of information. But if you don't have a CD or DVD burner, you don't have an internet connection, and you don't have a memory stick or a floppy disk or anything like that, you have no way of transferring that information other than reading it word for word to somebody else or having them read it. The method in which you will acquire information when you extract meaning from your own life, and as you get better and better, your brain gets more efficient with it. The method in which you do that is not the same method in which you have to use to communicate that information. People get locked up. They're overwhelmed. They end up criticizing you because of their own anxiety. It's not that they don't want to tell you. I bet there are people that are part of these secret societies, like I said before, they're like, that's it, I want to tell them. And they suffer consequences if they try to do that. And if you roll your eyes at them, or they get overwhelmed because you don't want to listen to the whole thing because you believe you know, that makes them hate you even more. These people, a government agent doesn't have time to extend patience. It's not that they wouldn't want to tell the world. I bet there are a lot that do. I bet there are. But they wouldn't know where to begin. And could they extend the patience over time, knowing that they would be interfered with in ways that you don't know and they do know? When you break adherence to certain frequencies, you see things that you never would have thought possible. This is why I laugh at people. One guy sent me a message that says, is there a clear channel we can communicate on? A safe channel? I sent him a message back. I'm like, what do you mean a safe channel? He says, you know, where we can't be detected, something safe. Those in the know laugh at that. Those who think they're in the know but aren't in the know have no idea why we're laughing. You won't understand this in the way that it is, but I will tell you this. There is no private communication. Some of you are thinking technology. Look, even your thoughts, if you're targeted, are not private. And I'll tell you something, that's a very liberating thing, actually, if you learn from it. If you know your thoughts can be read, why would you lie? And here's the interesting thing. This is why if you adhere to the truth, regardless of source, just the truth that you feel, it can't be beaten. They can invade your mind, but if you adhere to the truth, then you see that as liberating. It's like the balance game, you know, where you stand in front of somebody and you put your hands up and you try to knock each other off balance. You lose that game two ways. Either you get pushed backwards, but if you exert too much force and push forward and fall into the person off balance forward, you also lose. Somebody with correct balance can get you to fall into them or push you backwards. And that's the thing. That's why mind control isn't what you think it is. If they do it too much, that'll propel you to the truth. If they do it too little, you'll naturally go to the truth. If they scare you, then you choose truth over your life. If they entice you, then you learn from the enticement. If they can invade your mind, I see that as a good thing. Because if they're going to listen to my thoughts, that means they have to consider them. I welcome it. I welcome people listening to my mind because I'm not pretending to be perfect. They can learn from my corruption and learn how I'm trying to overcome the corruption, how the corruption is being overcome. You have no privacy. The sooner you realize that, the better. If you adhere to the truth in you, what have you got to hide? The only way you would hide that is if you fear the judgment of other people, or if you feel that your body is more important than the truth itself. Remember, adherence to observable lies or adherence to unobservable truth, faith, but not faith in some objective God, just what you feel is right and true inside, what gives you the most joy. Stick with that, keep it simple. So it's bizarre, probably, for some of these mind control agents and entities, because I actually welcome their observance of me. I feel like I'm on that show Big Brother, where I'm under 24-hour surveillance. That's fine with me. I don't know exactly why, I just don't care. Other people say, I had a black helicopter follow me. Yeah, I had that 1.5 years ago. I waved. They're not going to follow me around. And if they do, I won't care. They know that. Why? If they follow me around, I'm a good enough communicator to make people take note of that quickly. See, usually they know that it takes too much time to give somebody the truth. With me, I can take a person and very rapidly make them understand. In person, anyway. Because they'll have to assess me and my energy. There's more than just words, people. Why aren't there agents sitting in a van across my street? Why do you think? Because I would go right out of my house, walk up to their van and say hi. If they're going to follow me, then I'm going to have them talk with me. I don't care if they're there. I'm going to make them think about it. Why are you doing it? Is your perception narrow? What is the purpose of what you're doing? Why covert? Especially if I'm willing to talk with you. Is the purpose of trying to make me fearful and anxious meaningful? Are you deviating from your path because you're allegiant to something that is forcing you to do so? If you had your choice, would you be my friend or the friend of somebody giving you orders? Be honest with yourself. If they want to sit and watch me, they're not going to do that because they know I'm watched. Because they know I know I'm watched. Remote viewers, astral travelers, the whole deal. Why are they going to do the van thing? I already know and they know that I know. And because they know I know, that wouldn't be as effective as what they're doing to me. What they're doing to me is what they do to people who don't care about what they do to the people out of the know to scare them. And they can't really peg me as somebody in opposition to them. What are they going to say about my recordings for people? What? That they're wrong? That my message is negative? I'm teaching people to be alive, seek the truth from within, to recognize their own value. That includes a government agent. If a government agent is listening to this, that includes you. And you know I feel that. What are you going to say? Especially if you know how corrupt my mind was in response to certain forms of mind control, and how hard I'm trying to bring out the love and spirit in me in the face of that. What are you going to do? Come on. Criticize me for it? For trying to heal? Unsolicited, actually motivated to heal what my mind thinks it wants, and I'm still doing it. What are you going to do? What are you going to say? That you don't respect that? Do I know that a lot of them are under mind control and they're very narrow-minded like everybody else? Yeah. I would imagine it would be hard for them to attack me, because I address them when they do, and they know that I know. In fact, I even had a government agent turn on a microphone and speak into my head once. He said, "Look, I know you don't want to get involved," and turned off the mic. He wouldn't do that unless something that I was doing and how hard I was trying and how neutral I was trying to stay in the face of it, I somehow, in some way, earned respect from him, because I don't even know the full capabilities that they have. He wouldn't have said that to me, because I don't want to get involved. I would prefer to just teach, to be in a world where I could just help people with their path and gain joy from doing that. They know I don't care about this New World Order shit, in the sense that it has no meaning to me. I see it as an inhibitor, something that's getting in the way of truth, but I don't care about it, and I don't lust after it. They know that. So what are they going to say? What are they going to do? They won't do it directly. What do you think, some FBI agents are going to come to my door? They wouldn't want to put up with that, because I would sit there and I would talk with them. The only thing they could do would be to beat me up, and I don't know that they necessarily want to do that. I mean, really, let's look at what I'm doing. In spite of their agenda, I'm doing an awful lot of healing. You gotta be an evil motherfucker to attack me for what I'm doing, when I didn't ask for it. I wasn't even seeking it. What do you think, I was a conspiracy theorist? I wasn't. I had my own business, I had my own life. I was seeking spiritual knowledge of self, and accidentally discovered this stuff because of the knowledge I attained. And they know that. It was an accident. I wasn't seeking it. It's just a situation where I can't turn away from it now that I've seen it. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Act as if everything was the way it was? It's just a matter of integrity, man. I don't like addressing mind control. I'd prefer to not be in a world where I have to do that. I don't get excitement from it. But I can't. It's kind of like, fuck. You know, you look at it and you're like, no one else is going to be able to. I don't know. That's how I perceive it. It's like, I know the abilities that I have. And they tried to rip my mind to shreds right in the beginning. I haven't talked about that yet. They tried to rip my mind to shreds so that I would end up in a mental institution. What they did to me, I'm sure, is what they did to Kurt Cobain and anybody like him. Yet somehow, it didn't have an effect on me. I actually took meaning and understanding from it. Again, the truth. Because of my adherence to internal truth, I didn't give a shit that my reality changed, and that was probably bizarre for them. I mean, how are they going to approach me? He doesn't have any shame. We can't blackmail him because he'll embrace any corruption we reveal about him. We can't Let's see, he knows about the entities and the mind control, and he's actually looking at it sometimes as an interesting experience. What are we going to do specifically? Because he actually engaged us. I tried to call the FBI over a year ago. I didn't get I left a message, no call back. You would think they would send a psychiatrist or something for good measure to check on my personal safety. No. That's why I sought out an ex-FBI agent. This is what I talked about in that interview during Propaganda, Parables, and Perception. I would love the opportunity to sit down with these people. Do you think I wouldn't? And they know that. And when I did it, it wouldn't even be about their agenda. Because that's not what I am about. That's not the experience they would have from me. So, I mean, if I could do anything, if I could get the people involved with this agenda to consider their own path and what life is about outside of the control they're under, I understand that it's overwhelming. I understand you agents are shown things that seem hopeless. If you are allegiant to your body and your life in your body, I don't care if you've seen other realms, I don't care if you've been shown the abyss, the nature of this reality. You believed this reality once. Just because you were shown something new does not mean that that is the truth. But the consciousness that guides your thoughts in a sublime fashion controls how you perceive the new reality and how it should affect your point of view. You see, anybody that has their veil lifted this way are buffered from society. They resent society because that which lifted their veil also controls the people and will set up all the time situations where they encounter people whereby these people reinforce their hate for them by acting stupid, being aggressive, showing how little they know in a way that is offensive to the particular personality that is controlled by this consciousness to carry out the agenda. Making them not want to help, extend patience, or anything, but actually resent the people because they magically forget that that which is giving them knowledge is the one making those people act the way that is offending them. See, they're not seeing the whole picture. You talk about an entity, and so an entity is giving you knowledge, and then you come into contact with people that seem very stupid to you once you know certain things. And they'll say things that just happen to irritate you and make you want to shake your head at them. You never take a moment to think, wait a minute, I hate these people. Why do I hate them? Well, they're stupid. What made them stupid? Oh yeah, the same thing that lifted your veil. You gotta trust me on this. To maintain secrecy, threats are not enough. They have to make the person hate the, quote, sheep. Do you understand? They coordinated that well. These people try to do that to me all of the time. Those that have listened to all of my uploads so far will understand what I'm about to say. Those that just start listening to this will not. And I won't answer your questions about it because I address this in other uploads. I get questions, like say I'm thinking about UFOs one day, and suddenly I get a bunch of email reinforcing me to seek information about UFOs. Isn't that interesting? Or I'm thinking about something else and the emails I get are somehow related to that. Or I think, well, I can't be judging people, it's not their fault, they're stupid. And then I suddenly get a barrage of emails of really stupid comments. You think? You think maybe? Just maybe? Anyway, those of you that have listened so far all the way through everything I've done, you know what I'm talking about. This is very true, and you have to be mindful of it. Remember, polarity. Just like they try to control you with Star Wars, right? A Sith thinks only of themselves, and a Jedi is selfless, right? Creating polar opposites. A true spiritual person may appear to be like a Jedi, but that isn't right, because if you're selfless, you hurt the system. Why? You're part of the system. So if you're only giving and you're selfless, then you're not receiving. If you're only taking, then you're hurting the system. Truth would be you have to sustain yourself as part of the system and the system. Both. Selfish selflessness. You have a right to joy. See, there are two energies. The energy of disease is an energy that takes in anticipation of being taken from. The energy of health or normality would be giving, knowing that you receive. Two very different energies. One's pathogenic, one is diseased, one is normal. Here, people are hybrids. One pops up sometimes, but they're primarily dominated from the former, taking in anticipation of being taken from. What's the difference? One is duality, one is singular. I may use giving and receiving, two different words to describe the energy I'm talking about, but that is an illusion, because true giving is the same as receiving. There is absolutely no difference. You cannot give a true gift without simultaneously receiving, and you cannot receive a true gift without simultaneously giving. They're one. One cannot happen without the other. Forget about direction. That does not exist. Understand that is normal creation. That's it. That's the nature of true reality. You cannot give without receiving. Now, if you apply that here, not from the ego can't do it. It's something you feel that happens. All you can do is change your ego so that it's more receptive to that input. But when it happens, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody deserves that. So if, say, I was a giver that is here at this time, who am I giving to? Everything. And that includes the takers. See, here's the interesting thing about a taker, or detached energy. It cannot receive. It will not receive. Can't do it. That's why it takes. When you understand what receiving truly is, you'll know that a taker cannot do that. And because it's unable to receive, it cannot perceive what a giver is giving. The taking energy is trying to convert givers into takers. Part of that is keeping score of your behavior. Sublime mind control to you throughout your life. Propagation of norm-based ridicule if you come into awareness of that, utilizing a pseudoscience called psychiatry. Or anything else in the media. Humor, comedy is the #1 vector for mind control. The sigh of relief of laughter when you jolt yourself back right into the center of the norm. The point, I'm going to give. I have no target. I'd like takers to be something I give to. Because you cannot take what is given. That's why they try to convert you into a taker. Something that is now in guilt, in shame, and fear. What you give cannot be taken. Love can't be taken. It can only be given and received. It's a different bandwidth. It's a different thing altogether. So it's not like I'm being leeched if I give to a taker. Because the giving sustains me. You don't run out. I don't have a goal, but it would be nice if some takers actually allow themselves to receive. When they receive, they will see that what they receive is so far above what they were trying to take that it's not even comparable. One is alive, one is dead. If you're taking in anticipation of being taken from, you are dead. If you're copying the norm, letting meaning be given to you, rather than extracting meaning from your own path, you are dead. You may be able to move around, you may be conscious, but you will be consciously dead. That's what, like when you hear Christ say, let the dead bury the dead. I'm not talking about a corpse burying another corpse. Those who are consciously dead and don't get it. Embalm and preserve a body? Put makeup on a body? Cemeteries subconsciously promote worship of the body. It's a severe sickness, okay? I can imagine a branch of a tree bending down and dwelling on a dead leaf that fell off rather than allocating its consciousness to new leaves that are sprouting. Let the dead bury their dead. What is raising the dead, other than getting them to adhere to truth that they may not be able to readily observe because their own extraction of meaning from their own path begins to make them reject the lies they can observe? You must begin to extract meaning from your own life. I don't care if half of your conclusions are laughed at by people in the beginning. Screw them, you're trying. Don't ever, ever let anybody discourage you from that. The more you try to put two and two together, the better you will get. You will learn to do it quicker if you look at your path. What do you think the narrow path is other than extracting meaning on your path? It's a narrow path because it's your path. As soon as you get sucked into another's path, you're on the broad path, and that can come in many shapes and sizes, from sex and drugs and propaganda and all kinds of things to distract you away from extracting and learning from your own path. I'm talking about observance. Maybe you're an artist and you've painted several paintings. You've put them away somewhere. Go back to them and look at them again. Look at journals you wrote 10 years ago. It's all right there. It's all right in front of your face. This does not mean to ignore your reality, as your reality is part of your path. You'll find that when you, I should call it give-receive, re-give, it's one thing, but when you give and receive, you'll find that's where you feel alive. Guys, maybe you're socializing and you see a girl that you're sexually attracted to, and you could go along the path of trying to persuade her to see you as sexy and to consider hanging out with you, getting her to do something. In other words, taking. But if you stop that, if you're on that wave, jump off the surfboard and ask yourself, what does she need? I'm a guy, I know how guys manipulate. Would it help her spirit if I actually took the time to listen without any strings? What if I did that? What if I actually gave her eye contact and let her know, hey, not all guys are bad. You don't have to have sex if you don't want to. Don't ever let anyone put you into a state of feeling guilty because you won't put out. Having sex is only stimulation of the body, which is chemical. It's a detached drug. Remind them, what's the difference between having sex and making love? Having sex is body worship. It's a stimulus of the nervous system. It means nothing. It's to reach a chemical high. Making love is where you try to stimulate the spirit inside of the body. What if you actually used your intuition for something good? What if you saw that maybe she's attractive and gets hit on all the time, and all she really wants is some sort of authenticity because it's so lacking in this world? What if you thought about that and then followed through, sat there for a half an hour, and don't fake listen to her? Be direct with your thoughts. As long as they're giving, it'll be okay. See, a lot of people think that being blunt and direct means you're being honest. Just because you say what you're thinking doesn't make you honest. Why? Because what if what you're thinking is a conclusion that you reached because you were in denial? You were filtering your reality. You're basing your conclusion on lies, whether you know it or not. It's a faulty conclusion. Therefore, it is a lie. It's a lie to your spirit. Just because you're thinking it and you say it doesn't make you honest. But if you're in the state of giving, knowing that she is a valuable being, forget about the sex and just think about that. Pretend she's your sister, guys. Or your mother that you went back in time, and this is your mother when she was young. How would you treat her then? and then follow through. After a half an hour of advice, say, "Nice meeting you," and walk away. No, "Hey, can I get your number?" even if she asks you for it. You don't need to create a relationship. There are 7 billion people on this planet. You're already in relationship by being alive. Giving has no strings. Men, listen to me. Walk away with a smile. Don't do it robotically. Don't try to copy the behavior. Have the correct intention. As you walk away, you've given the greatest gift. Wow, that guy didn't want anything from me. Then you'll see it's not a taking energy, and you've just raised her spirit. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Now, remember, I said you cannot give without receiving. If you do something like that, and don't go seek out a girl. This is one scenario. There are many ways to give to many different types of people. Please do not be mechanical and robotic and like a cyborg as you hear me give you a scenario. After you give like that, when you walk away, take note of how you feel. How bright is the sky? How colorful are the leaves on trees? How beautiful do the birds sound now? You cannot give without receiving. And then I want you to ask yourself, what if I took my normal approach? What if I tried to act cool? What if I was strategic about things I said in anticipation of how she would perceive me when I said them to shape how she views me? What if I lived a lie? What if I tried to take advantage of the situation because I wanted a date? Would I feel, and be honest with yourself here, would the birds sound as beautiful to me right now? Would I notice what I'm noticing right now? Do not try to think about what I'm saying right now, because you cannot. You cannot imagine it. You cannot recreate it. This is something that has to happen. You have to follow the path. Then, and only then, will you be able to take note of how you feel. Don't try to anticipate how you're going to feel, because you can't. I'm just telling you that after you give in any way, a true gift has no strings, has no motive, isn't premeditated, isn't calculated in the brain. It happens. Why will it happen? Because if you're in the state of love and wanting to know thyself, you will be positioned into a situation that will allow you to do it. I am absolutely 100% sure and certain about that. Don't ask me how, just trust me. In other words, you don't have to seek out the situation. Do you hear me? If you truly want to know yourself, I promise you, you will be put into a situation where you will be allowed to give. You will not be forced to give. You will have your free will, because that which will put you in that position extends free will. Do you hear me? You must understand, step by step, rehabilitation. If you want to know thyself, part of knowing thyself is giving, because what you truly are is a giver, whether you can remember that or not. If you intend to know yourself, which is a derivative of God, before you can know God, you have to know yourself. They're one and the same. You will be put into a position, all day long if necessary, where you can give. If the next day you rebel from that and want to take, you'll create a position where you can take. You create the cancer, love will create the healing. The template is the same. What you experience in this template is not. And be mindful of that. If you want to know of God, the more you do that, the more that you're going to find that you're put into these positions. What's doing that? And once you start to learn and extract meaning from these situations, when that salient event happens, you cry. When you know God, you'll know God. and you cannot be told how you're going to know God. And that's individual for each of you. You can't know God by hearing me. All you're hearing is an expression because of God. I want to finish up by talking about this give thing, this give and take thing. Like I talked about before, a taker is a detached energy. It is a disease. It takes in anticipation of being taken from. A taker deludes itself. It lies to itself. It justifies its own existence. It believes that it gives. How? It will strategically allow itself to be taken from, as if to justify its own existence. You must understand, giving and taking, giving and taking. Remember, these are not a pair. Giving and receiving are one. Giving, receiving. Give, receive. Taking in anticipation of being taken from. For example, let's talk about just energy. Think about an extrovert. People are deluding themselves when they think an extrovert is a giver. They're an entertainer. No. They leech your energy. An extrovert, a social butterfly, needs to suck your energy out. They drain you, and that's what gives them their vitality. This is why a lot of rock stars are really quiet until they get on stage. They're sucking your energy. It's your energy that's animating them. They're addicted to social situations because they're dependent, like leeches, upon the attention that other people give them. Attention is giving energy. An introvert is the opposite. They are vulnerable, more vulnerable than the normal person, to having their energy leached from them. They get into a social situation and they feel their energy just leaving their body. They may not understand it that way, but because they're so attentive to everybody and everything, that's why these people are very descriptive writers and whatever. Because they're very detail-oriented, they're very attentive. Because of that, they get overwhelmed in a social situation. They're way too sensitive to it. They are attentive to everything, and because their energy leaves them when they're that way, because they're not in observance, they're attentive, the reality can take their energy away, and that weakens their aura, and then they're very sensitive. They feel out of place, they're just too awkward because they're having their energy taken. An ambivert is somebody who toggles between the two, depending on their current state and the situation. Now, most of my life I was an ambivert. But when I feel the spirit strong in me, when that happens, that's when I am not leeched and I am not leeching. My passion will be the same. My vitality, my energy, my emphasis is the same whether I'm talking to one individual or 500,000. It wouldn't matter because the energy at that point is coming from somewhere else. Infused inside, so coming within. I can relate to takers because I was converted to a taker in a lot of ways in this lifetime. And that's very important. Why? You've heard, he who overcomes. I'm not going to speak in Old English. What you were told is, he or she, they always emphasize male, that overcomes, their reward will be great. Those with understanding. See, a taker thinks of a reward as something that happens later. A good deed and reward. Sit, roll over, and you get a treat. For those of you that are waking up to your giving, as I am, and that is a slow process where you start to remember that you enjoy giving more, and that's where life is. That's the essence, the unquantifiable essence. Ask yourself some questions. When you're in the state of giving, you receive simultaneously. There are many of you that know what I'm talking about. So your reward is simultaneous. What is that reward? Describe it. Good luck with words. secondly, say for example, maybe you were somebody that is here at this time to heal. What is the motive of a lifeguard when they jump into the water to save a swimmer? What is the reward that the lifeguard gets? Let's not even do a professional lifeguard. You're walking along the side of a river and you see someone in trouble. Without even thinking about it, you're already jumping in the water to save them. What is your reward? To one who overcomes, the reward will be great. If you come in as a healer and you acquire the corruption, they know you're a healer, you have a different energy about you, so they're on your butt. The moment you incarnate, your life sucks. Everything's coordinated around you. Low self-esteem, probably abused as a kid. You have perversion, maybe addictions, all of these things. However, now you can relate, can't you? You can relate to the taking energy. It's just like somebody who's sheltered and mom and dad keep the kids spoiled. They get everything they want. They have an easy life and they decide to study sociology and psychology. And they think what a great thing it would be to become a guidance counselor and help troubled teens. The problem that they run into that they're completely oblivious to, but the young teen is not oblivious to, is that they have no credibility with the teenager. The teenager knows right away that whoever is trying to give them advice doesn't understand. They didn't go through it themselves. They didn't overcome anything. They are not qualified to give advice. They can't relate to them. They don't know what it's like. They're just not qualified to give advice. And you know that. You know that if you're looking at the prissy counselor that has had everything handed to them, you can't take them seriously. You resent any advice they give you because you know that they probably wouldn't be able to handle what you've already gone through. And it's a direct paradox. It's a contradiction. Well, if you come in and you acquire unknowingly, which is why it's credible, and then you overcome while being able to relate. Because as you overcome, as you begin the process of overcoming, that usually precedes knowing of any negative control on this planet. It certainly did for me. I wasn't a conspiracy theorist, like I told you before. I had no idea. I thought that was myth. I thought that was a joke. But it was essential that I wanted to repair myself before I knew what was around me. For me, for my path. It's important because my motive came from within me. Then I was shown, but the interesting thing is as I go through this process that, okay, at least I understand. I can relate to it, and if I overcome it, I am credible. The same way that a troubled teen would be credible if they became a guidance counselor. The same way that Robin Williams was credible to Will in Good Will Hunting. It's almost identical. Relating is so important. Even though they still try to entice me and corrupt me and hurt me, well, that's expected, isn't it? I mean, if you go up to a drug addict and tell them to quit, they're going to hate you. And they're going to try to justify their addiction. Then they're going to try to offer it to you. If that doesn't work, if the fight doesn't work and hurting you doesn't work, they're going to try to get you to do it. Doesn't the alcoholic always want to pour you a drink? Misery loves company. Why? They're trying to justify their condition because they're frightened. They're frightened of the unknown, which is why they use the unknown to scare givers. Givers are in a situation of amnesia. Taking uses fear and threats of the unknown to scare givers. If I were to give you one certainty in all existence, I would tell you this. Never, anywhere, anywhen, should a taking consciousness be in control of a giving consciousness. And if that happens, that is certainly a state of disease, regardless of scale. It is disease. One who overcomes will have a reward that is great. What reward do you think that is? If you're a guy, what is it? You think you're going to get a pretty girl in the afterlife? A virgin? What's motivating you now if you're a giver? The physical world? Is that what gives you your passion? That may be equated with pleasure in a polarized state of being, to detach from pain. But what gives you that passion, like I was talking about, where you're in that state that you would have the same enthusiasm whether you were talking to one person or 500,000? Someone's looks? Getting laid? Getting high? Making money? People that get excited about money are not passionate. They lie to themselves and say they're passionate. They're elated. They're manic. If your motive is the simultaneous receiving as you give, what do you think the reward would be? What is the reward if somebody jumps into a river to save a drowning swimmer? What is the motive to do it? If you have a friend who's a drug addict and you try to help them, what would your reward be if you overcame the problem? If you can come into this realm, recognize what you've become, see it in a mature way, a broad way, and forget about the judgment of other sick people, which is essentially all of mankind, and overcome it, even when they try to stop it. Blackmail, social persecution, pain. If you overcome that, what's your reward? Why'd you come here? Why are you here? Why is the Spirit doing what it's doing? Why? Why does the giver give? What is your reward? Jewels? You can have a Porsche in heaven? What? Money? You're going to be rich in heaven? Food? What? What is it you think heaven is? What is it that you think is going to be a reward? Bow down and receive your reward. And they open the box. What's in there? What material thing could you be given that could even match the motivation of sacrificing yourself to help? What's the reward? Why make a sacrifice? Why did Christ sacrifice himself? They didn't sacrifice him, and it certainly wasn't to please some deity, like it's sold to certain groups. They can justify the story and believe the lie all they want. Why would anyone do that? What was the sacrifice? When you say, I've made a sacrifice today, I sacrificed my time, I sacrificed this, and your motive can't really be traced to the ego, why would you do it? What do you think? Christ was concerned with the opinion of human beings? Who do you think he was trying to motivate? You are all subjected to that which his sacrifice was for. In other words, it was a way of saying, hey, you have a severe problem. Do I enjoy this torture you're imposing upon me? Would you be able to withstand this torture you're imposing upon me? Can you trace my motive to my ego? Why would I be doing this? How important are you? You have a disease and you're comfortable with it right now. And you're hurting me badly. How important do you think this is? Now, if you're still in a taking energy, you don't care anymore about that than a mosquito cares about hurting you. You don't even consider it. So what would the return of Christ be? What, do you think that man and that personality is going to return? Do something? Smack you all up? Give you a big spanking? What? How about the realization from within what the value of life is? And when you truly know what the value of life is, you will know that it is irrelevant of scale. Therefore, one being is as important as the whole. When it is realized what that man actually did, and any like him that did the same thing, and why. Why? When the taker finally realizes and receives that gift, the gift is timeless. When it receives the gift, forgiveness is the wrong word, except if you really look at the word. For I give. When a taker receives, it is also a giver. When it's on that wavelength, it has knowledge. When it has that knowledge, it understands. When it understands, it will metaphorically collapse. Metaphorically cry. It will be in awe of how could it do what it has done and be forgiven. What in the world has that type of capacity? It will realize that no taker should ever be in control of a giver. That's enough for now. Thanks for listening.